He treated me like a sin, yet kept coming back to me as if I were a prayer. I should not be writing this. Women like me learn early that certain stories do not belong on paper. They remain locked in memory, buried between silences and glances that are never repeated in public. We met in the heart of the night, because daylight belonged to someone else. Arthur was not merely a disciplined man, he was a promised one. His name had already been written beside my cousin's in a family agreement that sealed the fate of estates and bloodlines long before our eyes ever met for the first time. We could not be together, because our love would have meant the ruin of a clan, and the ultimate betrayal of a bond one was meant to honor. Every minute we spent alone, while the house slept, was a quiet theft, a happiness built upon a marriage he could not cancel, and a loyalty I could no longer maintain. But if I do not write this, one day someone might believe that Arthur Whitmore was exactly who everyone thought he was. And he was not. Arthur was known for something rare: discipline. Discipline in his schedule. Discipline in his words. Discipline in his gestures. He was the kind of man who could cross a crowded room without looking twice at any woman. The sort of man everyone respected without quite knowing why. There was something about him that seemed too solid for the world, as if no mistake could ever reach him. That is why his first glance frightened me. It was not a long look. It lasted only a moment, but it lingered far too long. I was standing near the ballroom window when I noticed it. He had paused in the middle of a conversation to look at me, as though he were trying to understand something about me that should not have mattered. When our eyes met, he immediately looked away. Disciplined men do that. They pretend the mistake never happened. That night I thought it would be nothing more than that, a strange glance, a moment soon forgotten. But 2 days later, I met Arthur again in the corridor of the house. We were alone. The house was silent, except for the old clock at the end of the hall marking the seconds with an almost irritating calm. He stopped in front of me. For a moment I thought he would simply pass by. But he did not. Arthur stood there as if he were fighting something invisible. Then he said quietly, "Miss Eliza, this should not be happening." I did not even know exactly what he meant. So I answered with the only truth possible, "Then do not let it happen." That was the first time he failed. Arthur laughed. It was not a loud laugh. It was brief, almost bitter. "You have no idea how hard I am trying." That was how it began. Not with promises. Not with declarations. It began with resistance. In the first weeks, everything felt like an accident. Small encounters in empty corridors, quick conversations that always ended too soon. During the day, Arthur returned to being the proper man everyone knew. Polite. Calm. Distant. He spoke to me exactly as he spoke to anyone else in the house, as if nothing existed between us. But at night he forgot who he was. There was never haste in his steps when he came to me. There was never haste in Arthur. Even when he did something wrong, he did it with an almost cruel calm. Once I asked him why. "Why do you keep coming back?" He took so long to answer that I thought he would not answer at all. Then he said, "Because stopping would require more strength than I have." It was strange to hear that from a man who seemed made entirely of strength. Over time, we created our own rules. Never during the day. Never in places where someone might hear footsteps. Never a word about it in front of others. And above all, never promises. Arthur said promises made things dangerous. Because promises create a future. And what existed between us could not survive any future. For months our relationship lived that way, hidden between silent nights and quick farewells before anyone could suspect. And yet there was something he could never quite hide: jealousy. The first time happened during a dinner. One of the guests spoke with me for too long. Nothing improper, only polite conversation. But when Arthur passed me in the corridor later that night, he said something I will never forget. "Do not laugh like that with other men." I looked at him, surprised. "What way?" Arthur hesitated for a second. Then he answered, as if they had permission. That was the moment I realized something I had never considered before. Arthur did not come back only because he desired me. He came back because he needed to. I had become the only part of his life he could not control. And disciplined men, when they encounter something they cannot control, become obsessed. One night I asked something I should never have asked. "Do you regret it?" Arthur was sitting in the armchair, watching the fire in the fireplace. The light trembled across his face, and for a moment he looked far more tired than I had ever seen him. He answered without looking at me. "Every day." I stayed silent. Then I asked the only thing that truly mattered. "Then why do you keep coming back?" Arthur finally looked at me. There was something in that look I had never seen before. Something dangerous. "Because, Eliza," he said, his voice lower than ever, "you are the only mistake I miss even before it happens." In that moment I understood. I was not the love of Arthur Whitmore's life. I was his flaw. The one place where that perfect man allowed his discipline to break. And there is something deeply dangerous about being chosen for that. Because when someone returns to you knowing they should not, it is not romance. It is addiction. And addictions rarely end with beautiful farewells. Ours ended in the quietest way possible. Arthur simply stopped coming. No explanation. No letter. No goodbye. For weeks I believed he had finally won. That his discipline had returned. Until the night I saw him again at a dinner. Arthur looked exactly as he always had. Elegant. Impeccable. Untouchable. A man no one would ever dare to suspect. He walked past me as if I were only another person in the room. But when he came close enough that no one else could hear, he stopped for a second and said only, "Good evening, Eliza." They were simple words. But the way he said my name made my heart remember exactly why that man would never truly forget me.
If this tale has pleased your heart, grant us your favor and stand beside us.
And if you wish to hear many more, join us and keep watch for what comes next.